That's what's up. So welcome today to the platform. Do we teach or do we tell?
hmm
Do we teach or do we tell? That's going to be the topic today. Today's guest, as mentioned, we're talking to leaders. And I'll tell you, so often we think leaders come with a logo and a title, but they come in all shapes and sizes. And today we have the pleasure of meeting with AKA the Hammer, aka Octane, on the platform today. The Kisalan Experience, Step Up to Leadership. We have my main man, Christopher Glover.
Hello, hello.
How are you today, son?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I want you to relax, man. I thought it was important that I get you on as I've moved through my time in learning about leadership and learning about myself. You've always been there, and I am so really impressed how you have learned to navigate through some of the situations that you've been in. With that said, Christopher, early on, talk to us about, talk to the audience about your journey, grade school, high school. Talk to us about your journey.
So I'm always tying my life back to sports because I learned a lot playing sports. So I started off playing soccer when I was younger. I was always the tallest kid of my age group, skinny, and that's back then. Like back then, when you were that age, you never really thought of like being in shape. But I was the fastest kid. I was in the best shape. And then one day, after playing basketball with you, actually, we had heard about the junior NBA. And from that moment forward, I became obsessed with the game of basketball. Like I for sure wanted to put on a junior NBA jersey, no matter what team. And I ended up doing that. And from that point forward, I became obsessed with the game of basketball. Like ever since I started playing, I didn't stop until I made it to college. Um, but yeah, basketball was what I did when I was younger. Played for a lot of good teams, traveled all around the country playing. It was for sure a good time. And basketball was cool. Played for I'm set against some really good teams. Played with some of the best people to come out of Chicago from my time playing, and it was a good time. I learned a lot about the game, and I for sure learned a lot about myself. Um, I just put myself in some situations where basketball didn't really work out, but I grew up as a person, and I'm grateful for those opportunities. They might not have worked out in my favor, like it may not have looked like it, but it for sure worked out for me and my growth to where I am now. Um, and with that said, basketball didn't really work out in college. Um, and by the grace of God, my freshman orientation leader happened to be one of the men's basketball managers at Xavier Universities, where I ended up going. Um, and just when I was in high school, you came to my room one day. We were just joking, and you said, "What if I become a basketball manager?" And it kind of slipped to the back of my head, right? Because we kind of like laughed it off. Like I'm playing basketball, I was kind of good at the time. We were like, "That's the last thing that's going to end up happening." Um, but when I got to Xavier, and the opportunity came up, I called you, and we laughed about it again, like we were just joking, talking about it. Um, and my fresh orientation leader, his name was Spike, and I thought that was so cool. But he told me about what he was doing with the basketball team. And when I called you about the opportunity after talking to him, you said this is a way for you to still be around the game of basketball without playing. So yeah, I ended up interviewing. It was like a long, rigorous interview process. So I ended up getting the position, and it was fun. Like I kind of just got thrown into it, right? Because I was a freshman in college and knew nothing about being a basketball manager. I kind of came from the playing side, where like I was just used to playing basketball. I guess that's all I had to worry about. But it then became more about making sure that's all the players and coaches had to worry about was just playing basketball and coaching. My job was to take everything else off their plate, and just to make the game easy for them. Um, because many people don't realize behind good basketball coaches is a really good support staff. Because at like smaller schools, the head coach pretty much has to pay attention to everything. But at the big schools, like a school I was at, Xavier, who was known for having a really good team year in and year out, the coach, all he had to do was focus on coaching the game. And my job as working for the support staff was to take everything off his plate.
And real quick, let me dive in here. So when you were at Xavier, that was Chris Mack time. They were ranked second, third in the nation. So that was a pretty high level situation at the time, correct?
Yes, it was. It was. And it was kind of all new to me because I came from a top high school in the city of Chicago to going to one of the top basketball schools in the country. I mean, ESPN was coming to do interviews after practice. Nike would come sit in on practice. And I was all kind of new to everything. So all kind of got thrown at me. But it taught me a different love for the game of basketball. Like it taught me teaching the game more than learning the game because I learned from some of the best coaches in the game. And day in, day out, it was more about basketball knowledge, basketball skill. Like every day, I tasked myself with sitting in practice and learning something new. Like that's how smart the coaching staff was. And that's kind of what put me on my path now to become one of the top basketball coaches in the country. Like that's my overall dream, to be one of the coaches that I was, to be like one of the coaches that I was working for while I was working at Xavier.
And you've had an opportunity, right? And we're going to backtrack a little bit because I want you to hit on something that I think our audience would really attach to. But you've had the opportunity to work with a few top 10 coaches and under the top 10 coaches, and Chris Mack and Quanzo Martin. But we'll hit on that. I want to go back. You downplayed, to be quite honest, you downplayed your basketball ability. I appreciate it, but I think that I want to put some context to it.
Mm-hmm.
In 8th grade, right, you were approximately 6'2", 6'3", and you had high schools throughout the city kind of knocking on our doors. Some of the top high schools, in particular, some of the top Catholic schools in the area. You decided to go to one of the top schools, Mount Carmel, and thought that was an excellent choice. Talk to people about the role it takes, and it goes into you being a manager. Talk to people about the leadership that comes with having a role that's behind the scenes. Is there still the same commitment?
Yeah, I would even say it's a bit of an equal commitment, right? Because people think the players work out every day and they work so hard, but the managers do the exact same thing. They're at every single workout, every single team meal, every single practice, every single film session. So it becomes the same work obligations, just like in a different form. So yeah, it takes a different type of leadership, right? Because I'm not trying to get you to run harder or play harder. I'm trying to get you to work harder. So work harder in the aspect of getting up. Let me backtrack. But working as a basketball manager in college, you don't get to live a normal college student lifestyle, right? And I was a freshman, but at the time it was all I knew. So I thought that was what college was supposed to be like. But after being in a different situation where I am now, Xavier was a lot different in the aspect of you're not going to be able to live a normal college student lifestyle.
Normal. I mean, you guys were number 3 in the country.
Yeah.
It was like you were in the fishbowl. Everywhere you went, people saw you down on that floor. If they saw you out in the city, out and about, you were recognizable. You were just as much as a rock star. Is it safe to say, as a manager at an institution like that, you're just as much as a rock star as a player?
Yes. At a school like Xavier, yes, because basketball was all Xavier had, and
Right.
they were really, really good at it. So when you fall into a situation like that, people pay attention more. So like you might get seen behind the bench on a TV screen on ESPN, like it was like that was just normal. So
That's
it's for sure a different college experience than most kids, and I'm forever grateful for.
That's what's up. And so you go from the Big East,
Mm-hmm.
the number one seed in the NCAA tournament, to then you go to the SEC, right? But before you go to the SEC, you go and you garner a couple of jobs
Mm-hmm.
that allow you to navigate. Can
Mm-hmm.
you quickly tell the story when you made the transition to Missouri? I know you worked a Final Four um, workshop. Can you quickly tell the story of how that job came about? Because I'm gonna definitely tell my part.
Mm-hmm.
So just how did you How did you get the job at Missouri?
So before my job, all that popped off, me and you, we were going to play basketball, and we talked like going to Mizzou might be a good idea, right? And potentially trying to find a way to work for the basketball team at Mizzou, doing the same thing that I did at Xavier. Um, and then I was blessed with the opportunity to work a Final Four internship, or it was for the let me go back. It was for the 3x3 national championship, the Dos Equis national
303
championship.
Dos Equis National Championship. Yep, Mall
Yes,
of America.
yeah, at the Mall of America where the NCAA tournament was being held at. So I was blessed with that opportunity, and the staffing was pretty much by was by this company called Rising Coaches, and their job is to help, or they saw it as it was their duty to bridge the gap between people who want to become coaches and the coaches that are already coaching. So they just do workshops, and they pop up in areas where like there are going to be a lot of aspiring coaches and coaches at the time, and they'll do events where like the coach will come and talk, just to spread their knowledge and things like that. But at the time of my role at the Final Four, my roommate happened to be one of the head managers at University of Dayton. His name is Henry Stark. And he was telling me about all these coaching events and things like that. But I was down there. I was unaffiliated with a basketball program, so I was kind of just like hanging out with him. And he took me to this event, and it just so happened that the Mizzou coaching staff was coaching at was one of the
Presenters.
yeah, they were one of the presenters at the event. So it just so happened, and I was sitting, listening to Coach Hollander talk. He's one of the assistant coaches at Mizzou. Um, I was trying to figure out a way to talk to him after to see if it was possible. So I was sitting there, heart beating fast, racing, nervous, and I was like, so I kind of talked myself out of it. But he got off the stage and said, "I'm just going to walk around the room. If you have any questions, walk up and just, we can just talk." So after I had talked myself out of it, he said that, and I was like, I kind of had to. Like, I'm not going to leave this room without talking to him. Like, I wouldn't be doing myself justice by doing that. So heart beating fast, kind of walked up to him after I saw somebody walk away, and just told him flat out what I had done, what schools I had worked for and
You
things
had
like
that
that.
30-second elevator speech ready.
Yeah, and I kind of got hired on the spot by the grace of God. Like, it was something I had been thinking about so much, and then I just kind of just cold call walked up to him. And the special assistant to the head coach was also Coach Martin was also at the event, and Coach Holland kind of just directed me in his direction. And me and him started talking. He was asking about coaches I had played for because he was familiar with Chicago as well, where I had played. Yeah, me and him talked, and then he's kind of like, "When can you start?" So yeah,
Wow.
it just is all kind of like a cold call. I just ended up in the right place at the right time. I also started with my roommate to the events he knew about, to getting there. The Mizzou staff was talking there. Just kind of all fell into place, and I had to kind of attack the opportunity.
So that's interesting. You're a member of the that coaching, that Rising Coaches fraternity now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool. So there are a couple of things, and I want to piggyback on that story. So guys, I'm in the city. I'm at the Final Four. I actually went by a couple of times and watched Christopher. He was a director of basketball operations, and so he was in charge of. It was every conference from across the country that sent representatives to compete in this event, right? And what did you have? The Patriot League?
Oh, I didn't have the Patriot League. I had the OVC and the Mississippi Valley Conference. I had two different conferences.
Okay. And so we went out there. It was star-studded, guys. If you think about it, we were in the middle of Mall of America. They transformed the Mall of America into this beautiful court, and people could watch from 4 stories high. Any of you listening that went to this event know what we're talking about. But I was in the city, and I was actually enjoying the Final Four at an establishment, on some cold beverages, and my phone rang, and it was Christopher, and he said, "Daddy." I said, "What? Don't nobody want their child calling them all hasteful." He said, "Daddy." I said, "What?" He said, "Where you at?" I said, "I'm watching the Final Four, and at a restaurant. What's going on?" Just as any father would do. And he said, "I got the job." And in that moment, I broke down, right? Because to me, and we'll talk a little bit about this, right? You did that, right? That was something that you did. That was something that you would be able to hang your hat on based on all your influences, based on all the ups and downs that you had up until that point, to have the courage to walk up to that gentleman in that moment. How can we empower our listeners? Why was that important for you to put everything else to the side in that moment and say, hey, win, lose, or draw, I'm going to go talk to this guy?
Because I kind of convinced myself that all he could say was no, right? And also, I would have been doing myself a disservice. Like with everything, like all my dreams, I would have been doing everything I had thought about prior to that point a disservice, because the key to the door is right in front of me. If all I have to do is grab it, why not walk in the door? Right? Like my opportunity was in the same room as me. Many people wish they could be in a position where the thing they dreamed of the most or they wanted the most was right there in front of them. And I had the opportunity. There was no way I was going to come home and tell you that the coach was in the room. I just didn't say anything. There was no way I was going to tell myself he was in the room. I wouldn't have been able to live it down myself.
Wow. And so that's huge for millennials, for adults, for anybody. That it sounds like that 30-second elevator speech is ultra important, because right, you only get a few minutes. Tell a person who you are, what you've done, what you look to accomplish, how they can help, and what are next steps, right? And so when you talk about it, right, this is the Kisalin Experience, Step Up to Leadership. Sitting here with my main man, Christopher Glover, a.k.a. Hammer, a.k.a. Octane. This is our first episode of many more. We thank you for coming on. It's interesting. 30-second elevator speeches will take you across the world. Through all your travels so far, right, because I feel like you've done a lot in a little bit of time. Mm-hmm. Who are some of your positive influences in your life?
I'm gonna have to say you. I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. Randomly, I was just laying around watching TV, and it would have to be you. Like I will never forget the first time you called me downstairs. You always do it. I'm up in my room and I hear you call my name all the way from the basement, and you said, "Come listen to this speech," right? And you showed me the Eric Thomas speech. If you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, right? And that may sound like motivation, but motivation and leadership kind of go hand in hand. I started listening to that, and the feeling it made me get, I'll never forget. Like it really made me want to do, like it motivated me, I should say. Like the feeling it gave me, right? And then as I had gotten older, you start talking about leadership and books and things like that, and authors and things like that, and everything they were kind of saying made sense, and it kind of tied into leadership, and it kind of tied into motivation all in one. And and I kind of just on my own started listening to my own speeches, different authors and things like that. And I'll never forget the first time you showed me the speech by Walter Bond.
And I watched right there.
it's 42 minutes long. And that's my first time I sat down. I realized I sat up for 42 minutes straight and didn't even look at my phone. And that kind of left a lasting mark on me. And I kind of just was always searching for the next 42 minutes speech that I could just watch and not move. Yeah, like that feeling. I kind of just started searching for it. And I started listening to different authors. I even got the opportunity to go listen to Eric Thomas in person, right? And I met some people there that think just and that are just like me that I still talk to this day.
Wow.
And but it all started with that Eric Thomas speech. That I can always, on my first time, that feeling that I got, and now I'm just always searching for it, right? And then Walter Bond, and so and granted, those are motivational speakers, but leadership and motivation go hand in hand. Like when broken down, I'm actually doing a paper on this now. John C. Maxwell credits, he said, to be a good leader, you have to be a good influencer, and influence kind of like motivation, right? You're trying to motivate somebody to change or do something different, not change what they're doing, but just to do something different or to look at something in a different way. But it all started with those motivational speeches, and now it kind of ties into leadership. And now that I've done my research and learned that they go hand in hand, and that accompanied with my career aspirations, like being a good coach, you have to be a good leader. And it all starts with culture and being in those different situations with the different coaches. I kind of was learning about leadership and then motivation, but I was seeing it in person up close every single day. So those coaching and leadership and motivation kind of go all hand in hand, but it all started from back in the day with those motivational speeches. So
that's huge, man. It's really impressive to and I know that it could seem biased, but it's really impressive. This kid right here is 21 years old, and so to have that lens and to have that content, I don't take any credit for it, right? You were, if you think about a mentor-mentee relationship or father-son, for as much as I was pouring into you, you were open to receiving it and then giving it back to the world. I think our ultimate goal is to pay it forward. And so that's really impressive. You've done a lot in a little bit of time. You talked about some of your aspirations. In 5 years, where will we see Christopher Glover?
Christopher Glover will be working for a college basketball program somewhere in this country. I hang my hat on my abilities and the abilities I'm willing to learn. So I'm just an avid learner. I always want to know what's next, learn more. Since I was younger, you'll know I ask a lot of questions. Like I feel like people may think useless facts are like harmless and don't mean, but I feel like those useless facts, everything like all has a meaning and it all
add up.
Something. Like it'll all add up. So that's why I feel like I like to learn everything about what I'm doing, what I could know, things people might think is like they might not even think of. I might ask a little tiny question about it just so I know. So and I feel like with that mindset and what I've already done and learned in my career, I feel like I'll end up working for a college basketball program somewhere, somehow, just by learning and knowing and, just by pushing myself to know more and learn more.
Kind of being humble, right? Humility is interesting. Because in a day and age where social media and, having a connected device, it gives you all the information. I had a young man tell me the other day, he said, to be quite honest, Director Glover, we don't need y'all. We have our phones, and anything we want to know, we can go and look and Google or whatever. He said, what they do need is our perspective, is what we think, and in a way that doesn't alienate the way that the younger generation thinks. Mm-hmm. With that said, your examples of leadership, you've been in some interesting situations, right? where you went in and the focus was you're going to play a lot or you're going to be a lot involved in the plans, and it didn't necessarily work out that way. But one of the things I can always attribute it to you was you always stayed engaged. Where'd you get the strength from in a lot of those situations? And when we're talking about, what we're talking about, guys, is just playing and being on the court and being to contribute that way. And where'd you get the courage and the strength from to lead from behind, so to say?
I had to find it from within, really. Like, I'm gonna go back to the Mizzou. I thought I would be letting myself down if I just gave up. So, like, granted, I could have not played for the last 4 games, but I was still gonna be first in every sprint. I was never gonna give up. I might have came first every single time, but I was gonna still try. Like, I prepared every day as if I was gonna play the full game next game. And I don't know, like, looking back, I don't know why. Like, I don't know why I was still doing it. But it was just something in me. I just couldn't stop. Like, I don't know. Like, that's why I would get mad at myself sometimes, but I just couldn't stop. I would still work out every single practice, show up to every voluntary workout, all because, I don't know, I would just do it. I had to find it within myself to not give up, because I'd be letting myself down, because in my head, you never know. You just never knew what could happen the following game. So I would just prepare every practice like it was like I was a starter. And I don't know, I kind of had to find it within myself not to give up, because I would be doing myself a disservice.
It's interesting because we all love the underdog, and you know, if we had to look back on a lot of the people that were playing ahead of you and things like that, life just takes people in different directions. You mentioned earlier that you had an opportunity to play with some of the best players that came out the city of Chicago. I can remember coming to that 2016 that city championship. Well, let's back up. 2 days later, it was the semifinals at the Attack Center in Chicago. And I mean, y'all walked in there like rock star. What did that feeling feel like?
That feeling was like unmatched. Like, just like looking back, like we got Uber Black to the Attack Center. It was already sold out by the time we got there. And I had never been in like backstage at the Attack Center with the locker rooms and stuff. We all had the black beats. We all got them for Christmas. So like, we all had them. We all did it on purpose. We all had the sweatsuits. It was fun. It was a different feeling. Like, the game was on TV. But yeah, it was a feeling I would never forget, and I'll do it again. I would do it again, and the outcome could be the exact same, and I'll do it again. It was for sure fun, because we felt like we were putting a part of the city that people kind of forgot about back on the map, and that's why that many people came out to support.
That's what's up. And so we fast forward 2 days, and then you guys are at Chicago State. And I'll never forget, I got there a little bit behind time, and I had to sit all the way up top. But that was the best thing that happened, because I got to watch you all warm up. What did it feel like? And I know some of the callers, you know, they played in front of much larger. But what did it feel like running out there and this 8,500 people? Was you scared to miss the layup in the layup line?
Yeah, because I was first. I don't know why I took that role. I was first in the layup line that game. And I don't know, like, I felt like I had made it. Like, I didn't care that I wasn't playing the game, that my friends were to watch me. I felt like I had made it. Like, I felt like all the hard work, the running and sprints, I feel like I made everybody better, right? Like, the best players, they have to keep up. Like, granted, they were first a lot too, but like, it was somebody who didn't play. They weren't gonna let me win every time. I felt like I made the team better. I made myself better. I feel like I had made it all because of that. Like, I feel like all the hard work that whole season, because we worked so hard, like the conditioning. We did conditioning on top of conditioning. And Coach Marlowe always said it's gonna all pay off one day, right? And it felt like we had made it. So yeah, that's the feeling that I got from that.
Shouts out to Marlo Fenner, coach of that 2016 team that, man, we all thought, I mean, I traveled with you guys. That was an incredible time. We all thought that came up short. Theo Owens Jr. hit a layup out at
Riverside Brookfield.
Brookfield.
Oh yeah.
He just was standing there, picked the ball up, laid it in. They go on to win the state championship. Incredible conversation. Hey, this is the Casalin Experience, Step Up to Leadership. Our first guest, Christopher Glover, laying nuggets, talking a lot about not playing, but feeling good about the path that he's taken, what he's doing in life. We started out with the quote of teach, don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
Teach, don't tell. And I don't know, I've mentioned that quite a bit in and around while you were growing up. What does that mean to you? What is that in your journey? If you have to think about teach, don't tell. What does that mean to you?
I feel like it can relate more to the journey that I'm on now when it comes to like coaching, right? And coaching, I learned relates a lot back to life, because the coach is kind of like when a parent sends their kid to live at a university and to play a sport, you're putting the parenting pretty much in the hands of the coach, because especially like depending on like with certain coaches, but you're putting the parenting abilities. Yeah, you can still talk to your son or daughter about, but the coach is teaching them every single day, right? That's like a teacher. You have the same class every single day. You're bound like this, like you kind of have to learn from the teacher, right? And that's what the coach does. And teaching, so telling, you could tell somebody to do something, change what they're doing all day. But if you don't teach them why what they did is wrong and how it is wrong and how it can be done differently, there's no point in even telling them or even talking to them at all, right? And that's what a coach does. The coach has to teach a player what was wrong about a certain situation and how it can be done differently. And it just all kind of trickles down into like life. And that's what that's what I kind of can relate to teach, don't tell, because teaching can help for future endeavors, but telling is only for a special or a certain moment, if that makes sense.
I appreciate that. I can relate a story real quick, and you probably don't remember this, but I remember one time, and this is where this came from. I remember one time telling you to take out the garbage.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got home, sure enough, the garbage in the kitchen was taken out, but there was no bag in the can. The garage door, the garbage in the back, the can was still open, so forth and so on. And I got upset because there was still garbage in and throughout the house. There was no bag in there, and I had to check myself. And so the thought was, if I want him to do it correctly, maybe I should walk him through this process. And so the thought was, let me teach him what it is that I'm asking him to do. And so I can remember, hey, Chris, come with me. We're going to take out the garbage. Here's how you take out the garbage. I got the big bag. I went around the house, got all the little bags, put the little bags in the big bag, tied it up. Before I even left the house, I put a new liner in there, closed that up, bam. Took it out back, opened the back door, opened the garage door, put it in there, put it in the big can, put the top down. Mm-hmm. You were with me every step of the way. The next time, I allowed you to do that. Hey, Chris, it's time to take out the garbage. Bam, bam, bam. You did all the components. We course correct along the way. I asked your understanding. You said you understood how to take out the garbage. Now, the next time I came home, you hadn't done it the right way. Mm-hmm. Now, I was salty, right? Because I felt like we went through this. I taught you what it looked like to take out the garbage. Mm-hmm. And from a leadership perspective, one of the things I want to resonate as through this podcast is leadership comes in every different direction. But if you're claiming to be a leader and you're not leading, teaching, from your influence, from your experiences, right? Don't have to be perfect, but if you're not in it, if you're just sitting on the sideline telling people what to do, then we're going to challenge you through this podcast, right? We're going to continue to challenge you to teach first and then inspect what you expect, right? I'm gonna do an inspection on the expectations that I set. And so I think you did a really good job. We're gonna finish up here. Back in uh, uh, earlier this year, look at me back. We're in this COVID time. Earlier this year, right before COVID hit, you had the opportunity to join one of the most, or not one of, the most illustrious nationally recognized Greek fraternities. First of all, service of all, we shall transcend all. Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. How did that feel, man?
It felt good. It was something that all of my line brothers always ask me to this day, like, what was your motivation? And I grew up seeing Alpha by my front door all my life. So it felt good finally being able to be on the other side. And just me and you kind of knowing the same information and kind of what got us here to this place today. It was a different feeling at that time. But yeah, I'm just glad me and you got opportunity to join a prestigious fraternity like that.
That's love, man. You know, I talked to some of my frat brothers, and you know, legacy means a lot. But I hear some horror stories about sons who don't necessarily decide, and I don't know if we call it a horror story, but sons that don't necessarily decide to go that route. And did you take it personal? Did you set a great example? And so in this instance, it worked out well. And so once again, I had the opportunity to kind of be there in that moment and just watching the growth and the maturation. It was one of those father moments that make you really proud. We're going to end here, man. We want to thank you once again, the Kisalin Experience, Step Up to Leadership. This is a segment here where we ask you to take off your clothes, right? No, not your, you about to take off your clothes.
I was just fixing my.
I said take off your clothes. As we go through this journey, man, sometimes we have biases and things that are up that maybe we can learn from and grow from. When I ask you to take off your clothes, Christopher, are there any biases? And maybe that's not a good word, but are there any, do you have any hangups about what's going on in the world today, so forth and so on, that you can release here today on the call and we can help you grow from?
I wouldn't say I really have any biases. I don't know, like the way you and mommy raised me and Kennedy, it was kind of the, like, always accept everyone for like who they are. So like, I don't know, I don't really see any bias in like anybody, because I'll never forget the first time you told me, like, never hunk at a car who does something crazy on the road because you never know what's going on in their life right now. And something that always stuck with me, because it's true, you never know what's going on in someone's life, like what happened when they woke up to the point you see them now, like what happened last night to the point you see them now. So like, I don't know, I don't really judge anybody. Like, yeah, it's something I'm still working on because it's kind of hard not to. You got your own head, but like, I'll try not to judge anybody because you never know what's going on in their life, or like what's happened up to the point to where you met them and things like that. So yeah, that's just my little philosophy on like how I look at other people and like how I look at society, because like you never know what shaped them to who they are at the moment that I meet them.
That's funny, man, because there have been instances, and I haven't necessarily said anything. You know, I'm a jokester, and we laugh a lot. That's one thing about our family. We always laugh, and it was funny. You was FaceTiming your mama the other day, and I jumped in, and me and you just started laughing. And I don't even know why we started laughing. We just started laughing. But we were out, and I was talking and acting silly at the benefit of someone else. And it was your tone. You know, in that moment, right? When you talk about leadership, in that moment, you said something to the nature of, you don't know what that girl going through. And it was how you said it that made me kind of in that moment check myself and say, hey, he's right. I didn't say it out loud, but he's right. Let me move on. Let the jokes be within us as opposed to on other people. And so there are a lot that I've learned from you two. Real quick, let's pivot. Twin. Obviously,
Mhm.
you've been a twin for the first 21 years for all your life. What is that like, having a twin sister?
People always ask this question, and I would say it's like you're born with a best friend. Um, like somebody who knows everything about you, like everything, and somebody you could always talk to. Like you just have a best friend who you could always text or call, who you know gonna hit you back, know gonna call you back, and you have somebody to talk to. So I don't know, me like she's just my best friend. Like ride or die, we could be mad at each other, whatever. I just know Kenji's not going nowhere, and she always got my back. So that's what it's like having a twin.
That's what's up. So if I had to say, who's the leader? Who's the leader amongst you two? Who makes the most solid decisions?
Uh, both of us. Like it depends on the situation. Like I'll lean on her if it's something I think she'll, she's best at uh deciding on or like helping figure out, or she'll lean on me if it's something that I normally do or something that she thinks I've got the most experience in, things like that. So we kind of just lean on each other. So it's not like one relying on the other. We just kind of rely on each other.
That's what's up. We've talked about me a lot. We've talked about your sister. And now here comes the one, right? Your mom.
Hmm.
Um, Extremely engaged, um, very detailed, very loving on this leadership journey and on your journey in life. What role has she played in molding you, um, to be able to articulate the way you are and to kind of be be able to talk and be involved in some of the things that you're in? What role has your mom played?
The biggest. I wouldn't have accomplished a lot that I've done without my mom. She is like the constant motivating factor for me to do most everything. Like, I don't know, like just the way she motivates me and Kendi to get things done. Like it's like a nonstop type lifestyle. Like what's next? What's next? This got to be this. Like it's almost like a not perfection, but like no mistakes. Like that's kind of like the lifestyle, like reading everything to the bottom line, to the dotted line, like everything. And that has gotten me where I am in school, in life, and just like the nonstop, everything got to be the same type of, not perfection, but like close to it. Like, just nothing's perfect, but that's kind of the mindset she's placed in me since I was a little kid. So like everything I do, I feel like it has to be to a certain standard, or it's no point in me even doing it.
Excellent, excellent. And so together we are TKQ.
Hmm.
Those who are listening, we are T, Tracy, K, Kisalan, Christopher, and Kennedy, all spelled with a K to the third power, and we got life. From a leadership perspective, when you talk, right, there's nurture and then there's nature. Um, some people grow up being nurtured,
Hmm.
and so that when they go out in nature, they have a clear understanding of what is right and wrong, and so forth and so on. This is a clear example of someone who's had that opportunity to have that solid foundation at home and has been nurtured to go out into this nature
Hmm.
so you can command it a little bit more. What would be from a leadership perspective, if you right now went in front of a group of 5,000, right? I want you to dig deep. What would be part of your message as you impart the way you've grown up, the way you've done things? What would be part of your message that you think will resonate with your peers or the audience in general?
Um, wow, that's a good one. That's a good one. I will first have to say that leadership isn't foreign, right? Because there are a lot of kids my age who don't know what leadership is, or like if it's even a thing, right? And I feel like if leadership became a course, like in school, where like you just learned, like in grammar school, like where you just learned the basics of leadership, like what it means and how it can be translated to different aspects of life, I feel like society now, I want society to be a better place. Like kids will have a different frame of mind when growing up. Um, so I don't know. That would be my biggest message, that leadership isn't foreign. It's easy to learn, and I like it because it can be, you can put it into every aspect of life. Like in every aspect of life, every day there is some sort of leadership. Everywhere you go, there's some sort of leadership. Um, and just learning, I don't know, just become a constant learner. Like I feel like, I don't know, I read books. I'm not an avid reader. I don't read every day, but like I'm kind of, as of late, starting to read and listen to books more, and just to pick the brain of other people. Like, so to tie it all together, I would for sure tell those 5,000 people that leadership isn't foreign, and that I kind of lost my train of thought, but to be, or to become a constant learner. That's the message I would try to transfer to those people.
I mean, the fact that, and people don't know straight up, we didn't practice any of this. I didn't give you these questions. And so for you to be able to articulate, right, it's just growth. Understand that what you're doing now will have a profound effect on you 5 years down the line.
Mm-hmm.
The information and the dedication that you're making to yourself allows you to grow. As a leader, none of us are perfect, and everybody's journey is different, whether that's educational, whether that's through jobs, no matter what that is. And I think that as long as you stay in the game and your goal, to your point, Christopher, keep learning, whether you're reading or you're trusting someone else in their knowledge, then you'll continue to get better as a person, as an employee, as a husband, as a brother, as a father. You'll continue to be in the game, man. I applaud your courage today. I know I called you. Go ahead.
Something else, another message. I just kind of thought of it. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I follow a lot of people on Twitter who I feel like think like me and always learning and things like that. And excuse me. There's this podcast called the Constant Quest podcast, right? And there's these two GAs, graduate assistants, who like work for these two different college basketball programs, and their first episode was similar to this. Like they just talked about the game of basketball and the constant quest of leadership and like motivation and things like that. And they guests from who like have played basketball and things like that. But one of the hosts, his name is Pete Felicero. He's a GA at Georgia. He said
Shout out, Pete.
One of his greatest influences was he was working with this trainer, and he would take him to the gym every single day, and like that's kind of how they got into like skills training. And he said it kind of shaped him every single day because that trainer was showing him that you should feed your brain every day, right? And I kind of wrote that, like I have mirrors in my room in my apartment. I kind of wrote that on my mirror just to feed my brain every single day, whether it's a podcast about basketball or a motivation podcast, or I read a book for 30 minutes a day. So that's another message I feel like people should start to, or like not start to do it, but like just to pay attention to, because every day you learn something new, and you never know, like
Where it takes you.
Yeah, like where it could possibly take you. So
I find that interesting because every little bit, right? Every little bit builds muscle.
mm-hmm.
And if you're doing 25 push-ups every day for 365 days, you're going to be ripped, right? And so I appreciate you, man. I think you dropped some nuggets. People don't understand. This kid is 21 years old. And this is my son, and I'm extremely proud of that. But the credit I take goes as far as having him and having the courage enough to know when to get out of his way. So all you've heard here today was him and his learning. We have conversations and such, but this is how we grow, and this is how we gain influence. And so I truly feel like all that you've talked about will become true. Just stay the course, stay good with people, laugh a lot, get you some good sleep, and love yourself and love those who are around you. And no, your instinct not wrong. If you feel bad about a situation or you don't feel comfortable about certain people, that's not lying to you. That's real. And make it your way to either get yourself out of that company or find a way to, immerse it and make it work for you. Um, Thank you so much for being our inaugural guest. We're going to make sure that people know where to follow you. Where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram at Chris Glover, and the O in Glover is a 0.
Okay, Chris Glover on Instagram. I know they're going to be calling you back to be my co-host. We're going to have to interview a few people together so they can get the old school and the new school feel. But
Sure.
With that said, Chris, thank you so much. I'm going to have you sit by because what I'll do, we'll close it out here, right? My grandfather taught me how to drive. And we were in Mississippi one time and it was raining profusely. I mean, it was getting down. And here I am out here learning how to drive one of those old school big cars. And so as we drive, it's a 2-lane highway and cars are pulling over and it's pouring down and the windshield wipers are barely working. And I'm like, Grandpa, I'm gonna pull over. He like, just keep going. And so I found myself trying to kind of get around cars and watch the oncoming traffic. And once again, I said, Grandpa, about a mile down the road, hey man, I want to pull over. He said, hey man, keep going. So now we've gone past about 4 cars that have pulled over. It's pouring down, raining, the wind is blowing. Now I see a tree. And I fell in the road. He said, take your time, navigate, go around that tree. And so it's raining, it's pouring down, and I get around the tree. I take my time, I get around the tree, but I keep moving. And we get about a mile up the road. It stopped raining. You know how it is down in Mississippi. It stopped raining, and we're about a mile ahead. He said, pull over. And I'm thinking, why am I pulling over now? He said, pull over. So I pulled over. He said, now look behind you. And I looked behind me, and I saw a number of cars that were just pulled over. They were trying to navigate. They was trying to see themselves through the muck. And he said, son, I challenge you to continue to go because you are going to make a difference. And in order to make a difference, you got to be willing to challenge yourself and see things before they happen and bypass obstacles and not be afraid, have the courage. And so the Kiss Allen experience, Step Up to Leadership, is me having the courage to share the knowledge that I have, to have enough courage to bring people on who are smarter than me, who have bigger stories, who can share out and empower my audience. And so with that said, I want to always thank you. My name is Kiss Allen. I want to thank you once again for Christopher Glover blessing us with nuggets at a little bitty old young age. You are appreciated. The Kiss Allen experience, Step Up to Leadership. Thank you all very much. This is episode 1 in the books. Get at your boy. Peace.